Hey guys, welcome to Quickfix Guitar. My name is Aaron. If you're a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you very much for coming back. Appreciate the support. However, if you are new here, let me tell you all about what I do here at Quickfix Guitar. So I upload 3 guitar lessons per week on songs from a variety of genres, but with the main focus around hard rock, rock, punk and metal. And then I release a cover the following day so you can see all the parts played in their entirety. And I also do review the odd piece of gear from time to time, guitars, pedals, amps, you name it. I love chatting about it. So if all that sounds like something you're interested in, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Give the video a like as well if you feel like it. That really helps out with the channel. That being said, let's jump into the lesson. All right, lesson time. Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols. Absolutely iconic song, especially if you're into punk rock or into the Sex Pistols. You've got to learn this one. It's an absolute classic. And the rhythm section of it is relatively easy. So for this lesson, we are on the bridge pickup and we're in standard tuning. So what I'll do for this lesson is I'll go through all the rhythm parts first, and then I'll show you all the different lead lines that you can play over the top of it if you want to. But this one, it starts on an A power chord here. So A string open, barring on the 2nd fret of the D and the G. Just a regular old A power chord. And this intro riff, it's super iconic, but it's super simple. And you can see why he might have come up with it, just picking his way, playing around the A chord. But it's really easy. So it's bouncing off the open A string, so hit that twice. Followed by, we skip over the D and go to the G, 2 on the G. Back to the A, two more on the A. And then to the D, with 2 there. So just bouncing 2 on the A, 2 on the G, 2 on the A, 2 on the D. And it just does that for a few bars going through. Obviously, playing it up to speed is a little bit more challenging, but once you get the pattern down, it's really easy. So it does that for a few bars, then the drums come in, you can hear them, and then eventually there's a big slide into just a regular A power chord. So I play it 3rd fret on the low E, just slide it somewhere down near the 12th, and then back. Then just hit a big open A power chord that we learned at the start there. So it should look and sound like this. And then he just sort of randomly strums his way through that bit and lets it ring out. And then we are into the verse. So the verse riff chords, I like to play it all with open chords here. I just like the sound of it. And on the record, it sounds like there's maybe 2 guitars, and one's definitely playing the open chords and one might be playing the bar chords layered underneath. But I just prefer the sound of the open chords, but just know if you want, you can play the bar chord version of it. So it's an A power chord that we learned at the start, and the whole time he's just strumming his way through it. Then a G. So middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B, and pinky finger on the 3rd fret of the high E. And we're muting that A string. That's not ringing out, but all the other strings are ringing out. So A, then to a D, and I play the rock version of it, the cheap version where you don't play the high E because it sounds really happy. You just mute that with the fleshy part of your ring finger. But I play it middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string and ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B. And if you get that low A in there, that's fine as well. Then back to the A. So A, G, D, A. Back to the G. And then finally an E. And again, you can come down here and play it if you want. But I prefer the sound up here. So that's low E open, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and 1st finger on the 1st fret of the G string, and all the other strings ringing open. So that bit there, we come off that A power chord, and then we're... So that's one passage. Then we play a 2nd passage, sorry. So we play the A, G, D, A, G. And you can go back to the E, but while you're playing that E, if you want, you can do the lead lines, which I'll show you a bit later. So you do 2 lots of that, and then we come down to this D power chord, and then to a C. So that's index finger on the 5th fret of the A string, ring finger on the 7th fret of the D string. And again, he's just strumming his way through this. Then we slide to the C, 2 frets down, and then back to the A power chord that we learnt before. And then while he's sitting on that A power chord and strumming his way through it, he's pulling off the C note there, so the 3rd fret A string, pulling it to open. Does that twice, or sometimes it's sort of random when he does it. Sometimes he just does it twice. Sometimes he does one and then reaches up to the 3rd fret of the low E on that G note and does that one instead. And then sometimes it's just the 3rd fret of the A string. With a lot of Sex Pistols songs, it's really hard to hear exactly what's happening because there's so many guitars laid on and the mix is really, really raw. But that's pretty much what he's doing. Either of those is fine. You can mix them up between them. So it plays that. Then it goes back to the verse riff again. So the D, A, G, E. Does that through twice. There's a few more lead lines. Then we go from the D to the C to the A. But this time, instead of doing it twice, it does it 3 times. And then it finishes on a G power chord here. So index finger on the 3rd fret of the low E. Ring finger or pinky finger, however you want to play it, on the 5th fret of the A string. And he down strums this one. And then finishes on an E. Stops, there's complete silence. And then another slide. Back to an A power chord. So I'll show you what that bit looks like, playing through the whole verse into that part there. And that's basically it. That's all the parts that you need to play the rhythm. So after it does that big slide back to the A, he lets it ring for a bit, strums his way through it, and he goes back to that verse riff again, does it one more time, and goes back to the D, C, A, does that through 3 times again, goes back to the G. Instead of the second time playing that E and killing it, he just strums his way through it. So then back to that A power chord, and for the remainder of the song it is just that A power chord just strumming his way through it, and there's a few different lead lines going over the top of it. So they are all the rhythm parts that you need to play Pretty Vacant. Now we'll learn all the lead parts. So now for the lead parts of Pretty Vacant. These are all played at the end of the verse. So it's A, G, D, A, G, E, and then it does it a second time, A, G, D, A, G, but when it goes back to the E, that's when you're playing these lead lines. So these are not note for note exactly what he's playing. This is just what it sounds like to my ear. So I've sort of improvised these ones, but they sound roughly like what he's playing anyway. But feel free to just use these patterns as just a bass block for building on. You can play whatever you want. But it comes up to that G. First time, he comes down here. You can either play just the E note here on the 7th fret of the A string by itself, or you can play the chord. These slides to the 9th. So 9th, 11th on the A string. Repeats that on the D. Repeats that on the G. And then does a full step bend. Reach down with your pinky on the 12th fret of the B. Bring that bend back down, release to the 9th fret of the G, then reach up and play the 11th fret of the D, and then back to that 9th fret of the G, and bit of vibrato. So that bit slowly. Then it comes down here, plays an A chord. This next bit, we are on the 4th fret of the G string. A little full step bend here. Pull, bend it up, and then back down and release and do a pull off to the 2nd fret of the G string. And then we hammer it on and pull it off again. You can either play it or just pull it off. Then 2, 4 with a hammer on. So play 2 on the D string, hammer on to the 4th fret of the D string, and then back down to the G string, 2, hit that, pick it, and then hammer on to the 4th and pull off to the 2nd again. So that whole part slowly. And he puts a little bit of vibrato on it, and then we're up to that D, C, A. Just like that. So that's the first lead passage. Now the second lead passage comes around at the exact same point in the song. So after we've done the A, G, D, A, G, E, and then A, G, D, A, G, while that E's playing, he comes down here and plays. So we're on the 11th fret here. We do a full step bend all the way up, and then we bend it back down. So bend it all the way up, and then pull off to the 9th fret of the G, and then we bend it up again, reach down with our pinky again, it's that same pattern from the first passage, and hit the 12th fret of the B. So we hit it again and bend back down. Go to the 9th of the G, give it a bit more vibrato. Again, another slide. 8 power chord. And then this next one, it's a bit strange, it feels a bit strange. It's really, really difficult to play actually. But it's a pre-bend, so you don't actually bend it up. It's already bent. And you release it back down on the G string, so pre-bend. And then we're on the 2nd fret of the B string, and we hit that and hammer on to the 3rd. And then you have to lift your fingers up. I actually find this quite difficult. I've got fat fingers, so it's hard. You have to hit the high E after it. So, and then we play that 2nd fret on the B, hammering on and pull off on the 3rd. Then we play the 4th fret of the G string, pull off to the 2nd, and then to pull off to open. So that whole passage slowly. And then into that bit. So that's the 2nd passage there. As I said, it's really difficult to play, especially in the context of the song when it's really fast. Doing that pre-bend and that hammer on with that open string, it's really, really difficult, but feel free to get super sloppy with it, and you can do different variations of that if you want, if that's a bit too difficult or don't like the sound of it. So the next passage after that happens again at the same point. So we've done the A, G, D, A, G. We come up here, he plays the E power chord, the little extended boogie woogie chord. So just plays it once. So that's the E power chord there, and reaching up with your pinky and touching on the 11th fret on the D string. Then you bar across the 9th fret on the D, G, B and high E. And then you play this classic rock little sus chord here. So that's middle finger on the B string at the 10th fret, and ring finger reaches up and touches the 11th fret on the D string. So open, down, open, down, and then open again. And then he quickly comes down here, does another one of these bends here on the 11th fret of the G string, reaches up, and with his pinky touching that, the 12th fret of the B. So bends it up, plays it down, plays it again at the G string and bends back down. Stays on that, and you can pick it again if you want. So instead of pulling off to that 9th fret that we have done for the last two passages in the same spot, it just stays on that 11th there. So again, another slide. Now this time, it's that same bend on the 4th fret of the G string. So we bend it, then we play 2 on the B string, hammer on 4, 5. So with your ring finger, then your pinky, and you can get the high E in there with your pinky as well if you want. So, and then play the 2nd fret, hammer on the 4th, pull off. So, and then reach up and grab the 4th fret of the G string and give it a bit of vibrato. So that whole passage slow there, bend it up, 2nd fret, hammer on 4th, 5th, and you can get that high E in there as well if you want, get real sloppy. Play the 2nd fret, hammer on 4th, pull off to the 2nd, on the 4th, then reach up to the 4th of the G. Bit of vibrato, then back into the D, C, A there. And then at the end of the song, when it's playing that A chord, he's playing, it's hard to hear, especially with this bit, what he's playing, but this is what I've come up with for that part here. So he's bending the G string, doing a little G string. So as that A chord's playing, he does this every now and then. That same bend that we've been using on the 4th fret of the G string, does 2nd on the B, hammer on to the 3rd fret of the B, so bend, then plays 2nd, hammer on, pull off, hammer on to the 3rd, pull off to the 2nd, and then reaches up and grabs that 4th fret of the G. So that passage slowly. Then back to that A chord. So bend, 2nd, hammer on 3rd, 2nd, hammer on to 3rd, pull off to 2nd, reach up to the 4th fret of the G string, and then back to the A. And there you have it, guys. That's how you play Pretty Vacant by the Sex Pistols. An absolute classic and one of my personal favourites. Hopefully you did enjoy the lesson. If you did, please consider hitting the subscribe button and hitting the bell notification if you haven't already. As I mentioned, I upload 3 guitar lessons per week. Feel free to give the video a like, that really helps out with the channel, pushes the video out to more people. Don't forget to have a look at the links down below and the pop-ups that are coming up here. There's a Never Mind the Bollocks playlist where you can learn to play every single song from front to back. With that being said, hopefully you enjoyed your quick fix, and I will see you in the next video. Catch ya.